Oh So yeah, the Spider-Man ride at Universal Studios Japan is closing. I've actually been to Universal Studios Japan all the way back in 2018, and I have to be honest, the Spider-Man ride was my favorite. It wasn't as annoying as any of the kiddie rides or Minion Mayhem. It wasn't as terrifying as Jaws Harry Potter or that one roller coaster that goes backwards. It wasn't as tiring as Terminator. No, like seriously, why does the pre-show of Terminator take so long though? And Jurassic Park wasn't opened when I was there, so I can't judge. So the Spider-Man ride was my favorite. It just mixes the physical sets with the 3D projections so well and way better than the Transformers ride. So you could probably imagine how sad I was to know that it is closing down next year. Like, I'm not surprised since they also closed down the Madagascar ride in Universal Studios Singapore last year to make way for Minions of all things.
You maniac! You burned it up! Darn you!
I can't look.
Darn you all! Heck!
But then, I remembered the existence of the obscure indie movie. I don't think you've heard of it, it's called. And then I remembered how that one villain that no one talks about has all these weapons that are pretty similar to some effects used in the Spider-Man ride.
Wait a minute!
Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is the perfect replacement for the Spider-Man ride. Okay, all seriousness though, if we aren't getting a unique replacement for the Spider-Man ride like Puss in Boots for example, it's a high chance we get Transformers the ride as a replacement instead. And let's be honest here, would we really want another Transformers ride when we have 2 in America and 2 in Asia? To quote that asshole guy from the live-action Beauty and the Beast.
Isn't one enough?
Also, Transformers is getting pretty outdated, while Puss in Boots and the Shrek universe is now trending. No offense after Rhyme Gaming, I know you're a Transformers fan and you're probably watching this, but the numbers don't lie. And since I'm reusing most of the effects of the ride, construction shouldn't take too long and the ride would probably open around 2025 or 2026, which is the same time Shrek 5 might come out, so yeah, it's perfect. Now I know what y'all are thinking, but the section that the Spider-Man ride is in present-day New York, and Puss in Boots takes place in the past all the way in South America. Easy, just re-theme the whole land to Shrek. No, really think about it though, every ride in the New York section of the park is outdated. Like seriously, did you know Backdraft was a movie? I definitely didn't. And I will admit, I may give Terminator 4D a lot of shit for its tedious and long pre-show, but the effects in the main show is amazing. Terminator 4D is definitely the best 4D show to ever exist because of how it combines animatronics, live actors and 4D effects into one show so well. And the drop at the end kinda scared me, so that's a plus. But if you kinda think about it, the Terminator franchise is pretty outdated. Do you really think people want to see more Terminator movies when the Arnold Schwarzenegger character kills off John Connor and ruins the classic movie?
I didn't think so.
Additionally, both Backdraft and Terminator are closing alongside the Spider-Man ride, so I don't think we have a choice. It's as if they're re-theming the whole land. Maybe we could replace Backdraft with the Donkey Show from Universal Studios Singapore. And then replace Terminator with Shrek 4D. Hey, it's not my job to figure out how to replace these 2 rides, my job is to tell you my ideas for a Puss in Boots replacement. You could discuss it in the comments, it's none of my business as of now. But before I start talking about my ideas, I'm gonna have to add a disclaimer. I am not a professional ride designer, and I don't work for the theme park industry, so my ideas might kinda suck. Secondly, this ride is a prequel to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and it actually takes place before Shrek 2, so Death and Peridot will not be inside it. I don't want any comments asking me where Death is, it's gonna get annoying real fast. Third, some of you might say the ride is lazy because it's mostly just a reskin of the Spider-Man ride. But here's the thing, Tiana's Bayou Adventure is a reskin of Splash Mountain, and Splash Mountain is a more influential ride to the theme park industry than Spider-Man, so I rest my case. Lastly, I'm gonna use the Spider-Man ride footage from Universal Parks News today, and I'm gonna use clips from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, so credits to both respectively. Anyway, I'm gonna stop stalling and start talking about my ideas for the Puss in Boots: The Last Wish replacement for the Spider-Man ride. So, I planned for the Shrek Land to have 3 areas. The Duloc area where Shrek 4D will be, and Shrek's Swamp might also be there. Far, far away will be where Donkey's nightclub will be at. And the middle part between Duloc and Far, Far Away would be a small Puss in Boots section themed to Del Mar from the second movie, and Sandricardo from the first movie. And that's where the Puss in Boots ride will be. The entrance will be themed to the governor's mansion from the movie. I mean, the exterior of the Spider-Man ride does look quite a bit like a scaled-down version of the governor's mansion, so maybe we could reuse quite a bit from that. So you enter the mansion, and it looks exactly the same like the movie. In the mansion, which is where this area is in the original Spider-Man ride, the governor will give the guest a bit of a pre-show. This pre-show will use the Pepper's ghost effect to make it look as if the governor is in the same room as the guest. If you don't know what that effect is, it's the same effect used in the Harry Potter ride and most famously used in the ballroom scene of the Haunted Mansion. Basically, the governor explains how Sandricardo wants to give Del Mar one of their golden eggs as a sign of alliance, and basically he wants the guest to board an auto-driving wagon designed by the engineers of Del Mar to help him retrieve the golden egg at the boat dock area. The golden egg is a reference to the first movie for those who don't know. The next part of the queue will have you exit the mansion and into the village of Del Mar. In the village, you'll see these different houses and buildings. I'm planning for the sets of the queue and the ride to look hand-drawn and 2D, similar to the designs of the movie. Maybe it could use a similar style that the queue of Runaway Railway uses. This section of the queue will be decorated with posters promoting the arrival of the golden egg, and also wanted posters of the different characters of the movie except for Puss's wanted poster. I guess maybe that'll be the only Peridot cameo. And don't worry about the whereabouts of Puss's wanted poster, we'll get to that real soon. The third section of the queue, which is probably where this J. Jonah Jameson pre-show sits today, is where the second pre-show will take place. You enter the village doctor's office, and he'll start talking about the safety instructions for the ride. He'll also occasionally talk about how the auto-driving wagon was created. There will be one line of dialogue where he says the wagon's mechanics were partially inspired by Humpty Alexander Dumpty's designs. So yes, I plan on Humpty Dumpty being a part of the ride but not death. Cool. The next part would be the loading station where you board the automated wagon. After you board the wagon and everyone is seated, you hear the voice of the governor. He wishes you good luck on your mission to retrieve the golden egg, and then makes a comment of how he hopes Puss in Boots won't steal the golden egg. Remember how I said that Puss's wanted poster isn't in the queue of the ride? Yeah, his wanted poster is up there, where the Spider-Man shadow is. And after the governor finishes his comment, you see a shadow of Puss in Boots running past the wanted poster. After the shadow of Puss passes the poster, the Puss in Boots signature appears on the poster. This effect will be achieved using projections. Afterwards, the wagon passes the sleeping giant of Del Mar. Behind it is a view of the village. As you pass by the giant, you see silhouettes of Puss and Kitty running on top of the giant. As they run past, Puss makes a remark that it's his first time in Del Mar and it kind of reminds him of Cordova, as a reference to what he says in the opening of the film.
People of Córdoba!
It's Del Mar!
People of Del Mar!
Kitty Softpaws then tells Puss to focus on the mission and stop getting distracted. Puss then laughs at Kitty for underestimating him. In the next scene, Puss and Kitty jump onto the wagon and warns the guests that Big Jack Horner is out to steal the golden egg to add to his collection of magical items and tells the riders to be careful. Afterwards, the wagon drives off and almost hits Goldilocks and the 3 bears. The wagon then reaches the boat dock area to retrieve the egg. After the egg safely reaches the wagon, Jack Horner and his henchmen suddenly appear and plan to attack the wagon to get the golden egg. The next part will have Jack Horner stab the wagon with his magical staff, electrocuting the riders. This effect will reuse the electrocution effect used in the original Spider-Man ride. Eventually, Jack Horner isn't strong enough to hold back the wagon and the wagon escapes before more damage is done. In the next part, one of Jack's henchmen attempts to shoot the riders with his bow and arrow. However, Jack Horner snatches the bow and arrow from him and attempts to shoot the riders himself. He misses, of course. As the wagon dodges the arrows, the vehicle slips on a puddle of water, and it spins uncontrollably. The vehicle then stops in front of Puss in Boots, who is standing in front of the boat dock. As he asks where the golden egg is, Jack Horner appears from behind with Poseidon's trident. He uses the trident to control the water from the sea behind him, and the water sprays onto the guest. This water effect reuses the same effect from the original ride. The scene ends with Puss running away, as he is scared of water, and Jack Horner throwing the trident at the wagon. Afterwards, the wagon escapes to the next scene. In the next scene, Jack Horner destroys down a wall using the flamethrower Phoenix. He almost burns the riders with the Phoenix, but the riders escape before the fire could get to them. This reuses the same heat effect used in the original ride. In the next scene, Jack Horner throws the apple bombs at the riders. However, Kitty Softpaws catches the bomb before it reaches the riders, and she throws it back to Jack. However, Jack throws another bomb, but Kitty pushes Jack, making him miss the riders and exploding a roof instead. Unlike every other effect just now that reuses the same effects used in the Spider-Man ride, I planned for this explosion effect to be slightly different. You see how Jack Horner's apple bombs make a green explosion, and the Spider-Man ride has a normal orange-yellowish explosion. Now, we could use a fog machine and light it green to make it look like a green explosion similar to the fog machines used in Transformers the ride. Or we could create green fire using copper 2 sulfate and boric acid. However, I never paid attention in chemistry class, so I don't know if it's safe to make green fire. So I asked Javert 2.0 Decoder, also known as the guy who had like 7 lines in Your Average Day as Disney H1.5, if green fire was safe, and he told me that boric acid would kill the riders. Fog machine it is. Anyway, in the next scene, Puss and Kitty are fighting Jack Horner, and taking out his guards, but behind them is the sleeping giant of Del Mar. Jack Horner uses the trident and attempts to wash away Puss and Kitty, but the water splashes onto the sleeping giant instead, which wakes the giant up. Jack Horner and his henchmen immediately flee the scene in fear. Puss and Kitty watch as the giant rises up, and Puss says,
"Holy frijoles."
The sleeping giant of Del Mar then proceeds to pick the wagon up. This flying effect is using the same one used in the Spider-Man ride, but the sets will have a different design. The giant will then grab more people, one of them being the governor. The next scene will be an epic battle between the giant and the cats. Eventually, Puss is able to knock out the giant using fireworks. Remember how in the movie, the giant gets angry when he sees fireworks? Well, my personal theory is that the giant has beef with fireworks, probably because he was defeated by them. So yeah, Puss launches the fireworks at the giant, which knocks him unconscious, so he lets go of the wagon and all the people he was holding. The riders and the people then almost fall to their doom, before Kitty Softpaws grabs Poseidon's trident to summon water, and cushions everyone's fall. The ride ends with Puss and Kitty thanking the riders for helping them retrieve the golden egg. Afterwards, the wagon goes to the unload station as the song, "Fearless Hero," plays in the background. In the unload station, you see the golden egg on the governor's shelf with Puss's signature written next to it. And there's also a projection of the governor hanging on another shelf, as he pleads the guest to help him get down from there. The golden egg will replace the part where the anti-gravity cannon sits in the Spider-Man ride. And the projection of the governor will replace the part where J. Jonah Jameson is floating in the original ride. The guest can then exit through the gift shop themed to Puss in Boots. So that's the Puss in Boots replacement for one of the best and most immersive rides Universal has ever created. Yeah, I'm not very proud of this replacement I came up with. I mean, it's a ride for one of the best movies this decade. There's no denying that Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is an amazing movie. The story is great, the animation is cool, the characters are fun, and the soundtrack has a lot of heart to it. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish impacted me in a way not many films can do. The movie introduced me to battle edits, and I got they were cool, so I started making my own. Because of that, I started from having less than 200 subscribers at the start of the year to almost reaching 14,000 as of I'm writing this. If it weren't for this movie, I wouldn't have become as popular as I am now, and I'm grateful for that. Additionally, the movie made me appreciate life a bit more. And not only is the Puss in Boots franchise an integral part of my life, the Spider-Man ride is also important to me. Some of you might know that I am a Spider-Man fan, so it's important to me that Spider-Man gets a worthy ride adaptation. And The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man is a more than worthy adaptation of the Spider-Man franchise. It's a really immersive ride, and it also heavily inspired the Transformers ride. Honestly, I'd like to hear from y'all what would be a good replacement for the Spider-Man ride, or maybe you could give me feedback on how to improve my Puss in Boots ride. It's definitely not perfect, so I definitely want to hear your opinions on it. But if you do like this video and my concept, maybe I could make more videos sharing my theme park ride ideas. I actually have a roller coaster idea that has more than 5 different ride systems, so do let me know if you want to hear that. But whatever Universal Studios does with the Spider-Man ride, or with the New York area as a whole, I hope they come up with something that can change the theme park industry the same way the Spider-Man ride did. Anyway, thanks for watching, and happy anniversary to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
ここにいちゃ危険だ。早くルーブルに戻って。まずい。